Okay, so right off the bat, I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. I haven't read pretty much anything. I've read a couple of the books, I've read none of the comics, so all of my recaps are going to be from the couple games I played, and of course all of the media that I've watched, which actually does exclude one of the shows, two of the shows now, but who really cares about those? I'm not even sure one of them is canonical. But I feel like the easiest place to start is to jump back at roughly 600 before the Battle of Yavin. Technically, if you consider how old he says he is in the actual episode, maybe like 595, 96, somewhere around there, Yoda is born. Yoda now exists as a creature in the universe. And so from what my understanding is, roughly 100 years after that is what is considered the High Republic era. Again, that's where all of the books are being written about right now. I haven't read any of them, but what I can say for sure is the first major thing that I know happens in this stupid universe is this group of Jedi, not just two, this group of Jedi, find a planet inside of a nebula shortly around the area of Kobo. And so this group of Jedi, led by this woman and led by this clearly not evil guy, they do a lot of research. They set up on the moon, they set up on the planet of Kobo, and they try to investigate how to get into this nebula, because inside of this nebula there is a very force-sensitive, very force-strong planet that they believe would make a good place to train Jedi, a good place for a temple. Well, things don't go so great. The girl eventually figures out a way to pass through, but they need a good pilot. The obviously not evil guy, he's the pilot that's able to get in there. They build the temple. Everything's going great, but they have to wait for the Jedi Council to deliberate if they're actually going to build a temple there or not. Well, turns out pirates attack basically right away. They defeat the pirates. Along the way, clearly not evil guy befriends the leader of the pirates. That'll come up later, don't you worry about that. But this whole ordeal, the whole fact that the planet itself is pretty strong in the dark side as well as the light, the Jedi Council's like, nah, this is too much work. We're not going to build a temple there. Anyway, clearly not evil guy, well, he turns evil. He goes around killing a whole bunch of people up until he meets the girl that he was working really closely with, and she's able to defeat him, chops off his arm, and is like, well, crap. Send this guy up to the BAFTA tank. Then things happen? I'm not entirely sure if they even said it in... This is Jedi Survivor, by the way. Spoilers, obviously. I'm not entirely sure why they are leaving the planet. It seems like they're leaving in a hurry. Anyway, this lady, she's got the bad guy, clearly evil bad guy, armless, off to the BAFTA tank. He'll be there for a while. She sends her droid in to go get something, I don't remember. Anyway, she stays on the planet for a while, and she does something. Who knows? I certainly don't. Is it in the books? Is it going to be in the next Jedi game? I don't know. Bunch of other stuff happens around here. I don't know. The next major thing that I am confident of is Count Dooku. At the time, just Jedi Padawan Dooku is a young little lad working at the Jedi Temple. Now what he doesn't know is that when he was born, he was force sensitive, and his father, the Count of Sereno, just hated this kid. Just the kid, what if the kid has bad vibes? That's Count Dooku's dad to Count Dooku, who again is not a count at this point, like forces him off onto the Jedi Council's like, raise this kid for me, I want nothing to do with this dumb kid. Anyway, against some of the wishes of some of the members on the council, Dooku's back on Sereno to kind of do like a cultural thing, just to advertise, I guess. Advertise the Jedi across the galaxy is why he's there. Things don't go great. Eventually he realizes he's got a sister there, and he like immediately hits it off with his sister. They become like really close friends in the 5 minutes they see each other there. But things don't go great. They go into this dark cavern that supposedly is like talks about the ancient history of the planet, and he accidentally connects with an ancient dark force beast that it slumbers deep beneath the planet and causes the whole thing to collapse, and both him and his sister almost suffocate in the rubble of this collapsed cavern before the Jedi can save him. Anyway, he swears off talking to his sister, but secretly they're communicating every single day. She gave him a little transponder so they can communicate with each other. Anyway, it's time for him to be selected for a Jedi Master. Every single, however long it is, the Jedi choose their next Padawans, and there's always a group of different Jedi. There's always a group of different Jedi Masters. There's always a group of different Jedi Padawans, and he thinks he's going to get a good one. I forget who. I read the book a couple years ago now, but he thinks he's going to get in good. And then he just keeps getting picked over and over and over. Oh wait, I think he wanted to get that cool treasure hunting Jedi who he teams up with in a second. But she picks somebody else. She picks his friend. Oh, I know the name. He'll come up later. I'll see if I can remember his name later. Just did while I was editing. It's Sifo Diaz. Anyway, she picks him, I'm pretty sure. Nobody picks Dooku until Yoda stands up. Yoda. The Yoda. At this point, close to 500 some. Over 500 some, rather. And he's like, yeah, Dooku, you're gonna be my Padawan. I haven't taken on a true Padawan in a long time, but you're it. I've got a good feeling about you, Dooku. So he trains Count Dooku, or Yoda trains Dooku, not Count yet, again, but it's his name, you get it. Trains Dooku for a while, tries to rip out a tree out of anger. Finally, Dooku gets the patience to actually sit down and learn with Yoda. Things go great until he sees his first atrocity. He gets a prediction, his friend, whose name I'm still forgetting. I'll get there. I haven't Googled anything for this, so this is all like right off the top of the dome. I was thinking about it a lot last night, how I would say it, but I wanted to go in as fresh as possible, and by fresh I mean as the opposite of that. His friend gets a vision that this one planet over here that makes a lot of the plants for medicine is something bad's gonna happen. And so they go to the planet and they're like, something's bad gonna happen. Well, it turns out there's a solar flare that knocks down all of the floating stations. What they had done was all the people on the planet actually lived on floating stations above the planet, and all of the surface was made into farmland, which made it really bad when all of the space stations fell from the sky and caused the entire planet to burn. Now, luckily because of the vision, some of the Jedi were able to get there and protect some of the people, but it was really bad, and the Jedi really should have listened to What's-His-Face's I know it. What's-His-Face's vision. It doesn't go great. Anyway, he's off going on an adventure now with that same friend and the older woman. I think that's later. I'm gonna go back a second to say that he becomes a great Jedi. What is first? No, I think this adventure happens. He's off with his friend. He's going on an adventure. They go to this planet. They're searching for dark side relics. I also skipped over a part where he breaks in to try to find dark side relics. That's beside the point. Anyway, things go bad on this planet, and the friend gets yet another vision that is kind of a prelude to what's going to happen in episodes 1, 2, and 3. He gets visions of a clone army turning on the masters and people Jedi turning dark, and it's not great. He gets messed up about it. Dooku's like, oh, I'm worried about my buddy here. Anyway, Dooku takes on a couple apprentices. One of them being everyone's favorite, Qui-Gon Jinn. While on one of those adventures of Qui-Gon Jinn, I am jumping into Tales from the Jedi, which I'm pretty sure both of these are still canonical. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. He sees another injustice where things are bad are happening on this one planet. I forget, it's been, a year since that came out? Things happen, Dooku's like, ooh, that's not very good. Anyway, we are now catching up to the easy one. Right, okay. Dooku, getting a little fed up, he eventually gets called back by his sister because his brother was a speeder racer, well, not a pod racer, some other type of racer, who got caught up in like a weird gambling thing. That's beside the point. He got injured. He went back to Sereno. Their dad died. He was becoming like a ruler, using a droid army to kind of take control of the planet by force. So Dooku shows up, kind of liberates it, and then forgoes his Jedi title and becomes the Duke of Sereno. Now this is where the timeline gets a little bit muddy, because shortly after, he's been running Sereno for some time and he just can't do it, and this guy, this robed figure known as Dark Sidious, shows up and is like, hey, I would like you to be my new apprentice, and I will help you with your planet issue. And Dooku's like, well, okay, let's do it. I'm a dark Jedi now. I'll be your apprentice. Nothing bad will happen to me as a dark Jedi apprentice. Also around this time, Palpatine goes to the planet of Dathomir and is like, hey, Mother Talzin, I want one of your kids. Give me a kid, I want to train him. And Mother Talzin is like, yeah, sure, this could be a profitable experience for all of us. And here's this kid named Maul. And Sidious is like, your name is Darth Maul now. And so, again, if you're keeping track, Palpatine's got 2 Padawans at this point. One of them he got a little bit before Dooku. I think I'm forgetting the timeline. It's tough. It's all in memory. The only thing I'm cutting out is when I am forgetting for long stretches to try to think about what to say next. So, anyway, also around this time, the friend, who again I continue to be forgetting his name, Dooku's friend, goes to Kamino and is like, hey, I found this clone, this bounty hunter named Jango Fett. I think he found Jango Fett. It might have been Dooku. He goes to the Kaminos like, hey, I want to make a clone army in case the Jedi ever go bad, because that was what my vision was about a while ago. Anyway, on the way back from Kamino, Count Dooku sends someone, I forget who exactly it was, to basically kill him. Downs his shuttle onto a planet covered in dust. It's all dusty, very dusty. He is dead, no longer in the story, and Dooku and Sidious take over the clone project so that the Jango Fett clones have this little chip in their brains so that when given the command, execute Order 66, they will turn on their Jedi Masters. Anyway, now we're here. A long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, and this is speaking from the point of view of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Naboo was under an attack. And I thought me and Qui-Gon Jinn could talk the Federation into maybe cutting them a little slack. Well, their response, it didn't thrill us. They locked the doors and tried to kill us. We escaped from that gas and met Jar Jar and Boss Nass. We took a bongo from the scene and we went to Theed to see the Queen. We all wound up on Tatooine, that's where we met that boy. Did you know this junkyard slave isn't even old enough to shave, but he can use the Force, they say? Ah, did you see him hitting on the Queen? He's just 9 and she's 14, yeah, he's probably gonna marry her someday. Well, I know he built C-3PO, and I heard how fast his pod can go, and we were broke, it's true, so we made a wager or two. He was a prepubescent flying ace, and the minute Jabba started off that race, I knew he would win first place. Oh yes, he was our boy. Oh my, this here Anakin guy, maybe Vader someday later, now he's just a small fry. And he left his home and he kissed his mommy goodbye, saying, soon I'm gonna be a Jedi. Soon I'm gonna be a Jedi. Anyway, we finally got to Coruscant, the Jedi Council I knew would want to see how good the boy could be. So we took him there and we told a tale how his midi-chlorians were off this scale and he might fulfill that prophecy. Well, the council was impressed, of course. Could he bring balance to the Force? They interviewed the kid. Ooh, but train him they forbid, because Yoda sensed in him much fear, and Qui-Gon said, now listen here, just stick it in your pointy ear, I still will teach this boy. We caught a ride back to Naboo, cause Queen Amidala wanted to. I frankly would have liked to stay. We all fought in that epic war, and it wasn't long at all before little Hotshot flew his plane and saved the day. In the end, some Gungans died, some ships blew up, and some pilots fried. A lot of folks were croaking. The battle droids were broken. And the Jedi I admired most met up with Dark Maul, and now he's toast. Well, I'm still here, and he's a ghost. I guess I'll train this boy. Also, speaking of Episode 1, I want to mention a couple things. Now this is pod racing. And also R2-D2 was on the Naboo ship as it was escaping Naboo to eventually pseudo-crash land onto Tatooine. R2-D2 was an astromech there, that's the first time he met C-3PO, and he'll be in everything afterwards. Anyway, in between these next 2 episodes, Count Dooku formally gets Asajj Ventress as an apprentice, although on the surface he only considers her an assassin, even though Palpatine has his suspicions as well. And I'm sorry, more future me again. Count Dooku kills Yaddle as part of his final initiation to being a dark side person, I guess. You know, Yaddle, the female Yoda from Episode 1. Okay, even later future me, again, this is also when Count Dooku erases Kamino from the Jedi databases. Database? databases. And then Anakin and Amidala, they don't see each other for basically the entire time. But Obi-Wan continues to train Anakin, and they have a lot of great and witty battles that we'll never quite see. Anyway, eventually Anakin and Obi-Wan are tasked with protecting Amidala because there have been multiple different assassination attempts on her life. And Anakin gets really weird about it. He falls head over heels immediately, and Amidala's a bit like, whoa, you're being a little too pushy. I knew you as a kid. But don't worry, she gets over that pretty quickly. But the leader of the Trade Federation, who, again, I'm bad at names, so we'll have to get over that. The leader of the Trade Federation wants Amidala dead. And so he goes to Count Dooku of Sereno and is like, hey, I want you to get that girl dead. And so Count Dooku of Sereno goes to the bounty hunter that he hired to become the clone template, Jango Fett, and he goes, I want you to get that girl dead. And so Jango Fett, famed bounty hunter, goes to Zam Wesell, shapeshifter nobody, and is like, hey, I want you to get that girl dead. And so Zam Wesell, famed bounty hunter and shapeshifter who could go anywhere, puts two little centipede-like bugs in a droid and sends it to go send him into where Amidala is sleeping. And Anakin and Obi-Wan are able to force sense the bugs in the room, and they kill him. They chase after Zam Wesell, but Zam Wesell gets gets a Kaminoan poison dart stuck in its neck because Jango Fett kills Zam Wesell. I say I don't know names, and then I pull out Zam Wesell. Oh boy. Jango Fett kills Zam Wesell to protect his identity, but Obi-Wan is able to take the dart to everybody's favorite Star Wars character, Dexter Jettster, enters 50s styled diner. And because Dexter Jettster has once spent a lot of time beyond the Outer Rim exploring, now he's settled on Coruscant to run his diner, he is able to recognize that that is a Kaminoan dart. I haven't seen this movie in 4 years. Anyway, Obi-Wan then goes to the Jedi Temple and to research in the library, and what's the old lady? I don't remember her name. I'm sorry, I only got so much brain space up in there. And is like, hey, have you ever heard of a planet called Kamino? It's not on any of the charts. And she's like, well, if it's not on the charts, it probably doesn't exist. So he goes to Yoda, and Yoda's like, and he's like, hey, Yoda, and all these younglings that are also here. Well, I can't find this planet. It should be right around this dark area. And Yoda's like, hey, kids. Can you find something that the old men cannot? And the kid's like, well, what if someone removed it? And he's like, so we probably should go to that spot, huh? And Obi-Wan goes to that spot. Meanwhile, Anakin has fully taken up responsibility for protecting Queen Amidala, former Queen Amidala, now Senator Amidala. I forgot to mention, in the time in between, Senator Amidala, while in senator school, had a fling with this other guy who was kind of adopted by the banking federation, the banking clan, whatever it was. I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, now Anakin and Amidala are having a fling. It's idyllic. They're in Italy, but not really Italy because it's Naboo. It's beautiful Naboo. There's fields and they're rolling over each other. And Anakin is getting a little fascist about it. You're either... What is the line that he says? That became a meme not too recently. I'll put it on the screen. He says the meme, or the scene happens with the meme, but they fall in love somehow. He cuts a pear in the air and feeds it to her, or puts it on her fork at the very least. It's weird, it's not great, they don't have the very best chemistry together. Anyway, they basically fall in love, but Obi-Wan, he goes to Kamino, and he shows up, and the Kaminoan shows up like, you must be with the Jedi, we've been expecting you. And he pulls down his hood and he goes, curious. Did I mention that Anakin Skywalker was a product of Force juice? Okay, sorry. Going back 15 years, 19 years pretty much. Their theory, and I think that this might be non-canonical now, but Emperor Palpatine and his master Darth Plagueis the Wise, they kind of tried to condense some of their Force energy and get Shmi Skywalker inseminated to make a really strong Force baby. And so Anakin doesn't have a father. Jesus Christ figure? I don't know. But Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor with his long beard and long hair, he looks a lot more like Jesus Christ. I'm remembering another post, I don't know if we'll be able to find this one, where someone is using a photo of Obi-Wan Kenobi from episode 2, and their grandma or something thought it was a picture of Jesus Christ. Anyway, he finds all these clones, this clone army, and he also finds Jango Fett. Jango Fett knows what's up. He tries to get out. He attacks Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's able to put a tracker on Slave 1. It's called Slave 1. You can't take that away from me just because it has the word slave in it. He's a bad guy. Let his ship be named Slave. You don't have to call it Boba Fett Starfighter or whatever. That's beside the point. He tracks Obi-Wan got a tracker device. He's got this really cool sound wave devices on the Slave 1 that makes whoosh, cool noises. That's a really cool moment. Obi-Wan tracks him to this planet Geonosis, where they are building masses and masses of droid armies. Along with the Trade Federation, the Geonosians, Boba Fett's there, and of course, the Duke of Sereno, Count Dooku. Obi-Wan gets captured, but before he gets captured, he relays the message of the droid army, or he relays the message of the clone army back to Yoda. Anakin also is able to intercept this message, send it off to Yoda, and then he decides, well, I gotta go rescue him, but I can't leave you, Senator Amidala. Amidala is like, well, you gotta protect me wherever I go. I'm gonna go save him. Well, they both get captured. Now it's all three of them. They kiss. It's very romantic. They kiss right before they're sent out to die. Anyway, they fend off against the three big beasts that were supposed to kill them, and then so they just send out a bunch of droids to finish them off. Super battle droids, though, they're real cool. Did I mention Jar Jar? Jar Jar's around. Anyway, just in the nick of time, a bunch of Jedi show up to try to fend off against the droid army. Jango Fett gets his head sliced off. Now, it's very important. Jango's head falls out of the helmet. You can see it in the shadow right before his clone son. It's a biological clone of him, of Jango Fett, except it wasn't given the growth hormone process that all the other clones were given. There were only two of those in existence. One of them was Boba Fett, and the other was Omega, who I'll get to in a little bit. Anyway, Boba's like, oh no, now I have a vendetta against Mace Windu, because he killed my father. Anyway, finally, they're all surrounded in a circle. A lot of Jedi have died at this point, and then the clones show up. Yoda shows up with the clones. Begun the Clone Wars have. Oh, I forgot to mention, but who was the real Darth Sith? But who was the one we killed? Oh, I forgot to mention, Darth Maul got sliced in half by Obi-Wan Kenobi after he stabbed Obi-Wan's master, Liam Neeson. But he didn't die. Through the power of hatred, he survived and got pawned off onto a junk planet later. Anyway, back to the present. The clones show up, begun the Clone Wars have. They chase down Count Dooku, but he's like, hey, let's go at it on one go. But then Anakin rushes forward. He gets his arm cut off. Obi-Wan doesn't stand against Dooku. Yoda shows up. He stands against Dooku, but Dooku tries to throw a thing on the two fallen Jedi. Yoda protects him. Dooku gets away. Anakin's begun the Clone Wars have. Anakin and Amidala get married in secret because Jedi are not supposed to get married. They're supposed to hold some sort of celibacy. I forgot something. Way back before the whole Episode 1 even, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is the current Padawan of Qui-Gon Jinn, and he is tasked with rescuing the leader of Mandalore as they are in the middle of a civil war. And he is sent to protect and go on a rough adventure as they're running away from forces with Satine Kryze. Satine Kryze, I think, is her name. And they really hit it off up to the point where if Satine asked Obi-Wan to leave the Order, he would have done it right then and there, but she didn't ask, so he went back to the Order, back to being the Padawan of Qui-Gon Jinn. That'll come up in just a second now. Anyway, begun the Clone Wars have. A lot of fighting happens. Unfortunately, the excellently animated Genndy Tartakovsky series is not canon. I'm confident of that. But I also like the other Clone Wars CG cartoon. So the main bullet points are the movie. They are a battle of Christophsis, I think. I forget what planet it's on. Anyway, Anakin Skywalker, through some schemery by Yoda, is given a Padawan. Yoda thinks it'll calm him down a little bit, make him become a better Jedi. And Ahsoka, who he immediately dubs Snips, and she dubs him Sky Guy, which that gets dropped basically immediately. They have some tensions, but eventually they hit it off. They become good friends, and he trains her to be an excellent Jedi. Then they're hired to seek out Jabba the Hutt's son, who has been put on this other planet, captured by his Uncle Zero the Hutt, I think it is. But Amidala finds out it's Zero. Ahsoka, Anakin, and Obi-Wan find the kid, but then are attacked by Asajj Ventress, Count Dooku's assassin, but really Padawan. They fight her off. Now, of course, Clone Wars is very long, a whole 7 seasons worth of television programming. So I'll mention the bullet points. Mandalore comes up again. Satine is there. She's not doing great. During the Civil War, she sent off all the warriors to live on the moon so that the Mandalore proper can be peaceful. Well, Mandalore proper has a fully corrupt government, so that is not doing great for them. And then eventually the warriors on the moon come back in the form of Death Watch. And so they have to fight with that a bunch. Also, Asajj Ventress, she fights pretty well for Count Dooku, but eventually Palpatine is like, hey, I know what you're doing with that girl. I need you to get rid of her. And so Count Dooku, the idiot, gets rid of her, and she vows revengeance. She vows revengeance on Dooku and goes to Mother Talzin. Remember Mother Talzin? She's the one who gave Palpatine Dark Maul from earlier. And Talzin is like, hey, don't worry. I got something for you. There's this guy over here. It's Dark Maul's brother. You're gonna train him. We're gonna put some Force magic into him, and then he's going to be a secret assassin to get Dooku. So Dooku takes on Savage Opress. Is his name? It's his name. Savage Opress. Whatever. Takes on him as a Padawan. And eventually he trains him to become a Dark Jedi. It doesn't go well, but with the combined forces of Asajj, 2 of her Night Sisters, and Savage kind of turns on both of the groups, and Count Dooku is still alive, even though he's also been getting force poisoned by Talzin at the time. The plan fails horribly. Savage goes back to Talzin and is like, yo, what's up? And Talzin is like, hey, I know exactly what you need. Your brother is still alive. And so Savage goes and finds his brother, Dark Maul, on a junk planet somewhere, and then is able to resuscitate him. And he's got this cool spider leg body, but eventually he takes him back to Talzin. He gives him cool robot legs. They try to go off on an adventure for a while, trying to become like big rulers and stuff. They eventually start building a crime syndicate together. Up until Palpatine gets a whiff of it. Palpatine kills Savage. He's having a really fun time with it. He doesn't get out all that much. And then captures Dooku. But also in that time, when they're building up their empire, they take over the crown of Mandalore. Maul kills Obi-Wan's former lover, Satine, right in front of him. It's very sad. They barely escape. And then jumping forward a little bit, I did actually read this comic. He gets busted, Dark Maul from a prison, Palpatine prison, gets busted out by Dark Watch and takes over Mandalore once again. What else happened? Ahsoka makes this friend. Oh, of course I'm forgetting her name. She's important. I still can't remember her name. I remembered it last night, but I can't remember it now. I do remember that she's Jedi Master Luminara's Padawan. What her name is? Oh. Ahsoka makes a Jedi friend on Geonosis. They have trouble there. They go underneath to destroy another factory of droids there. Things go bad. Then they have like brain corrupting worms that go up your brain and you become kind of like zombies. It's a rough time for them, but they bond over that experience. Ahsoka gets captured by some Geonosins, and with the help of Chewbacca, who also got captured, is able to escape. Yeah, that's right, Chewbacca's in it. Sorry, I misspoke. Trandoshans. She becomes her own, a very excellent Jedi, and then her friend turns on her. They plant nanomachines in some guy. The guy blows up, killing some Jedi and some workers. The Jedi think Ahsoka did it, so she's on the run. Then she gets captured, and then Anakin figures out it's What's-Her-Face, who's going to be in Tales of the Empire, which is out today, or as of the posting of this, so go ahead and see what that's all about. I don't know yet, because I haven't watched it yet. Anyway, Ahsoka leaves the Order because of that. She meets some really cool people in one of the lower levels. Oh, she also has to team up with Asajj to try to get her win her freedom from the Jedi who think she did the nanodroids. A thing. What else happens in Clone Wars that's important? The Bad Batch shows up. They're a group of clones that were also modified, sort of like Boba Fett, who received no modifications. The Bad Batch received modifications to make certain traits better. One of them's big, one of them's smart, one of them's a really good sniper, one of them's a good leader and has a mullet. So he's the good leader one. He got the good leader genes. Anyway, Ahsoka eventually realizes that Darth Maul is still in control of this crime syndicate ring, and he's back on Mandalore controlling everything. And so she teams up again with Anakin and Obi-Wan one last time to take over Mandalore. Oop, that doesn't happen because episode 3 starts happening concurrently with this episode. I'll finish off the Ahsoka thing first. She defeats Darth Maul, captures him. Order 66 happens. I'll get to that in a second. All the clones turn on them. And with the help of Darth Maul, she is able to get the chip out of Captain Rex's head, so he's good. He's one of the good ones. And they have to team up with Darth Maul to escape the ship. It crashes. They're presumed dead. But, of course, Rex and Ahsoka flee and have survived. Meanwhile, Anakin Skywalker gets another vision. I totally forgot to mention. Wow, I forgot to mention, Anakin had visions of his mom dying back in episode 2. Whoops, that was a big plot point. It kind of seals Anakin Skywalker as a character. That's when Padme decides, well, I'm going to Tatooine. You have to protect me on Tatooine. Anakin's like, well, guess I gotta go. He finds his mom. She's been captured by Tuskens, the Sand People. He kills them all, not just the woman, but the men and children too. I hate them. Yada yada yada. They still get married afterwards, and I cannot believe, I forgot the most important line. Anakin Skywalker, such a smooth individual, walks up to his prospective lover, Senator Amidala, and he goes, I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Everything is soft and smooth. As he gently caresses Amidala's hand, she pulls it away, but she has the flame too. It's an awful scene. I love it. I think about it almost every single day. Anyway, jumping back to episode 3, General Grievous and Count Dooku have captured Chancellor Palpatine. I also didn't mention Chancellor Palpatine became Chancellor Palpatine during episode 1. That wasn't part of the lyrics, so I kind of skipped over it. Chancellor Palpatine, he's been captured by his Padawan and his Padawan's general. Obi-Wan and Anakin go in to save him. Obi-Wan gets knocked out, but Anakin, he's grown much stronger since the last time he and Count Dooku fought. But double the pride, twice the fall, or whatever the line is. Again, many years since I've seen this movie. He gets Dooku on his knees, his hands are gone, he's looking up, whimpering. That's Christopher Lee, everyone, whimpering up at the foot of Anakin Skywalker. And Palpatine's like, he's too dangerous, you must kill him. And Anakin's like, but it's not the Jedi way, he must be taken in for interrogation. And Palpatine's like, do it. And so he does it, which, I mean, he was sealed as a member of the dark side after slaughtering an entire village of not just the men, but the women and children, but he became Palpatine's Padawan when he did it. Anyway, he's been brooding, he's been having visions that now Amidala is going to die. Yoda's still like, you're not supposed to have connections, and he's not taking it very well, but luckily Palpatine is there to be like, have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? I thought not. That's not the tale the Jedi would tell you. Of course, how do you know it? He figures it out soon. Rumor says it that Darth Plagueis the Wise was such a powerful in the Force that he could even prevent death. Obviously, I don't have the full quote memorized, I'm sorry, but I'm on a Google ban right now so to keep this sanctity pure. Anyway, Anakin's like, wait a second, can you teach me that power? And Palpatine's like, yes, but not with the light side of the Force. And Anakin kind of puts it together, you're a dark side, aren't you? So Anakin goes to the Jedi Council, who he was made a part of, but he wasn't made classified as a member, which also pissed him off at the time. He's not given the rank of Master, and he's like, yo, I think Palpatine's the Sith Lord we've been looking for. And Mace Windu is like, are you telling the truth? Well, you stay here, we're gonna go get him. And he gets his 3 top lieutenants, Mace Windu, Kit Fisto, and the 2 others. And Palpatine, I love these movies. Palpatine looks at him and goes, unlimited power, and kind of kills 3 of them really quickly. I'm sorry, Kit Fisto, you were great. I liked you. I forgot to mention that Ahsoka Tano was born and was found by Plo Koon, everyone's favorite. He's got the cool mask. I've got his lightsaber just right over there. Anyway, he kills him, but Mace Windu's holding him off. He's got him there. Anakin Skywalker shows up and is like, no, you can't kill him. That's not the Jedi way. But Palpatine is like, ooh, I'm shooting lightning at you, but it's bouncing back at me and it's making my face all melty. It's like, Anakin, thou killing me. And it's like, don't kill him. Anakin, think about Amidala. I don't think he actually says that. I can't remember exactly. Anakin thinks about Amidala, slices off Mace Windu's hand. Palpatine is like, I tricked you. Shoots him out of the window. That's why I've been calling him Mace Windu the whole time. Mace Windu falls out of the window. He's presumably dead. Anakin is like, what have I done? And it's like, you've become Dark Lord of the Sith. Dark Vader. Rise, Lord Vader. I'm going to do a thing. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan Kenobi, he tracks down General Grievous. Hello there, General Kenobi. I don't have a Grievous voice, apparently. I tried it out there for a second. He kills Grievous with this really cool lizard that's really awesome, shoots him in the chest, so uncivilized, which of course is a Star Wars reference. And he's like, well, everything's good here. I'll go check back in with Commander Cody. And Commander Cody gets a message on his little communicator device. It's Chancellor Palpatine who's going, execute Order 66. Which everyone knows is the order that makes the chips in the clones' brains, make them turn on their Jedi Masters. And so they try to fire at Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan survives. Luckily, he just got his lightsaber back. Luckily, that happened before the rock he was on got blown up and he had to escape through the lake. A bunch of other Jedi die. Anakin kills younglings. Master Skywalker, what's happening? Pew! Great scene. Love these movies. Anakin kills younglings. Eventually, and then they put out a message like, hey, all the Jedi, you should come back to the temple. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And Obi-Wan and Yoda recuperate. Yoda was on because he helped the Wookiees a little bit, then escapes with the help of the Wookiees a little bit. He and Obi-Wan meet up. They infiltrate to the Jedi temple. They reverse the message, telling all the Jedi, nah, get the hell away from here. Don't come back to the temple. It ain't good here. And then Yoda tries to go and face down Palpatine. It doesn't go great, but we do get to see Yoda crawl through that little tunnel and Palpatine jumping all around on the tubes and stuff. Oh, I remember, this is the first one I saw in theaters, and I remember getting a big chuckle out of the audience when Yoda kind of just got rid of the Palpatine's guards in one foul swoop of the Force. That was pretty cool, wasn't it? Anyway, it doesn't go great. Obi-Wan tracks down Anakin on... I should know this one. The lava one. Future Beat, I just got it. It's Mustafar. He kills off the leaders of the... Did I even mention the Confederacy of Independent Systems, the people they were fighting against during the Clone Wars, who was led by Count Dooku? No, I didn't. But the Siths were defeated when General Grievous was killed. Anakin finished off the rest of the leadership, making it so that Chancellor Palpatine, soon to be Emperor Palpatine, kind of takes control of the whole galaxy. Obi-Wan and Amidala. Obi-Wan hitches a ride with Amidala to this planet. Mordor? No, Mordor is Lord of the Rings. What am I thinking of? I know what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the volcano that Frodo sort of threw the ring into in Lord of the Rings. It's close to that though, isn't it? Nah. Obi-Wan's there. He's really wide in that shot. And then Anakin's like, if you're not with me, you're against me. Anyway, they fight. It's a real good scene. A real good fight scene at the very least. They like force push each other away from each other. That was really cool. They fight over lava. And eventually, Obi-Wan lands on like a short ledge, and Anakin's still hovering over the lava, and Anakin's like, I hate you! And Obi-Wan's like, it's no use, Anakin, I've got the high ground! And Anakin jumps up, and Obi-Wan gets the other 3 limbs that Count Dooku didn't get in the previous fight. And Anakin starts burning up, he falls, he rolls down, he's burning up in the lava, he's like, I hate you! Obi-Wan's like, how could you, Anakin? You were like a brother to me! You were supposed to bring balance to the Force, not plunge it in darkness! Anyway, he takes Anakin's lightsaber, gets the hell out of there. Anakin eventually is found by Palpatine. He's still alive via his hatred, and he's given this dark, robotic body, and truly becoming the Dark Vader that we know. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan and Yoda and the Oopa Oopa droid are there, and Natalie Portman, Senator. She was never a princess. Senator Amidala is giving birth to 2 kids, but then she dies of childbirth, or if you take the canon answer into effect, she dies of a broken heart. But she gives names to the 2 kids, Luke and Leia. Senator Organa, who's also been in the movies the whole time, and the show too, is like, hey, oh, I totally forgot to mention her ex-boyfriend. He was in the banking clan, whatever. Senator Organa is like, well, my wife and I have always wanted a daughter. Takes her to Alderaan, while Obi-Wan takes the boy to his uncle that Anakin met in the previous movie, and looks after him like an old hermit. Anyway, immediately after Episode 3, a couple things happen. 1, a young Kanan Jarrus sees his master killed and is able to escape with the help of the Bad Batch, who we met at the tail end of Clone Wars. Baby Grogu is given to this one Jedi who is played by the same actor who plays Jar Jar Binks, and they escaped somehow. We don't know exactly what's happened in between just yet, but they escaped. A young Cal Kestis is on a ship with his master, whose name I don't remember, and he gets gunned down. Cal Kestis is able to escape. I mentioned the Ahsoka escape earlier. Are there any other Jedis that we know about who escaped Order 66? Oh right, it was the one girl. There's a black girl whose name I don't remember, who was able to hide as a dead body from the clones. She was there. Spelling it out, a lot of Jedi certainly survived Order 66, didn't they? I mean, I get it. There were 10,000 of them. Now there's like a couple dozen, so it is a lot less, but still. Oh, right here is as good of a place as ever to. I forgot to mention this earlier, but I really wanted to bring it up in one of the books. Two other people that survived Order 66 are Asajj Ventress and her former lover turned General Enigma, as he was apprenticed under Count Dooku, turned former lover again. What's his face? The guy. The guy. You know the guy. There's a picture of him on the screen right now. Anyway, I really wanted to bring them up. 1, because both of them survived, even though technically Asajj died in the book. She came back to life because of Bad Batch. But also, I really wanted to bring up the phrase that the book used the turn of phrase "poised like an eagle" to insinuate a level of sexual attraction, and that is just a really funny line, and I wanted to bring that up. Okay, back to Past Me. It was Quinlan Vos. It was Quinlan Vos. Who else? I think that's it. Anyway, let's follow the Bad Batch for a little bit. They are all the clones are sent back to Kamino because the war's over. They don't need the clones anymore. And the Bad Batch meet yet another member of the altered clones. They meet Omega, who is like Boba Fett, except her genetic difference is that she's a girl. So trans Boba or whatever. I don't know. She's great though. They bond as a family, as brothers and sisters, but then eventually they have to escape because the Crosshair, one of the members of the Bad Batch, he sides with the Empire while everyone else is like, nah, this ain't it. So they escape Kamino, and then eventually they have to go back to Kamino because they meet up with Cad Bane, one of the coolest bounty hunters in the whole show. And Cad Bane is able to capture Omega, bring her back to Kamino, so they have to go to Kamino and rescue her. But also during that time, this one leader of this new empire, he's like, hey, we should get rid of the clones and we should start training up regular civilians to be our troopers. And part of that process, through the command of one Tarkin, Governor Tarkin at this point, is like, hey, let's just destroy Kamino. Let's do another genocide. And so they do a genocide on Kamino. The Bad Batch barely escape, but they do. All the Kaminoans are died. That was a poorly phrased grammatical error. I can't speak anymore. It's been a lot of this, and we are barely halfway through, if that. Anyway, they go on adventures. Omega becomes one of her own. She gets captured by another guy who's trying to use her as cloning material to transfer midichlorians during the cloning process. But she escapes with the help of Crosshair, who eventually turns on the Empire. But then she gets captured again, and I don't know what happens after that because at the time of recording this, Bad Batch is still airing, so I don't know how that's going to end. I don't know how Tales of the Empire is going to be. I don't know how the Acolyte is going to be. So again, this video is already completely out of date. That's Bad Batch. Also, roughly 5 years. Sorry. At the same 2 days after, I think. 2 days after Luke was born, Emperor Palpatine, or maybe 2 days before. 2 days before Luke was born, Emperor Palpatine declares the Galactic Emperor, and also this young boy Ezra Bridger is born. Anyway, 5 years after that date, there's this kid Cal Kestis. I think it's roughly 5 years. He's working on this planet, just trying to hide away, but then his friend is about to fall, so he uses the Force to capture his friend, but then people notice, so then, they're not called the Night Sisters. Did I mention the Night Sister genocide? That happened, leading Asajj to kind of just go out on her own, which is why she helped Ahsoka and later Anakin early on, and then Talzin tries to collect the Force from these Force-sensitive people, and then that goes bad, and then during the comics, she just gets stabbed by Grievous when Dark Maul is getting rescued by Night Watch. I forgot all that, but I remembered it now. Where was I? Cal Kestis, the Inquisitors show up, some of the sisters. They kill the friend he saved in the first place. What a waste. But also, another former Jedi, Seer Junda, noticed him and is like, hey, we're going to become a family now. It's Seer, it's Greasy Money Baby, and it's Cal. And they go on an adventure trying to find Seer's old master and the breadcrumb that he left behind. But then the Empire gets note of him. They find this Night Sister, Merrin. She's pretty cool. And they eventually find this holocron with the locations of a bunch of Jedi younglings. But then Cal has a vision that if he tried to create a new temple, all of these kids would just either get killed by the Empire or taken in and they would become Inquisitors. So instead of training the Jedi, he just destroys the holocron so that their identities can be remained secret from the Empire. Shortly after the stuff in the book happens, yes, I read the book. Nothing happens in the book other than the fact that he fights off against, I think it's the 5th brother. I've been meaning to look it up. I'm pretty sure it's the 5th brother. It doesn't go great, but Seer Junda's there. It goes great with her, but she's caught too much in the dark side. Seer, and then a Greasy Money Baby shows up. He's like, hey, Seer, snap out of it, but in the process, he gets his arm cut off. That's kind of the only thing of consequence that happens. Also, they made Merrin bisexual, which I think is great. It's not really relevant. It didn't even come up in the next game, but that's beside the point. Speaking of the next game, hey, remember when I talked about Kobo recently? Well, at a certain point, the team broke up. Greasy Money built a cantina on Kobo. Cal Kestis continues to go trying to fight against the Empire as well. He's starting working with, of course, everyone's favorite person from Rogue One, whose name I'm forgetting. He actually was from Clone Wars originally. I'm forgetting his name. I still can't remember his name, but I remember he's played by Forrest Whitaker, and his sister's name was Steela. Nope, can't remember it. Things are going bad. He just had an entire team wipe earlier, except for this one guy. So they go to Kobo, try to get things fixed up. They uncover this whole plot about this planet hidden within this nebula. They finally get there, but then his buddy, Bode, turns out that he was a Jedi spy, yet another Jedi who survived Order 66. He was a spy and was working against Cal the whole time. He turns on him, but is trying to take the plan so he and his daughter can have a safe place to live out. Seer gets killed by Darth Vader after a little bit of an annoying fight, because, spoilers, you're supposed to win that fight, but then you lose the fight right after. And usually when you lose the fight, you kind of are just supposed to lose the fight, but the developers still wanted you to feel like you're winning against Darth Vader. Even, whatever, whatever. Seer dies, they track down Bode, they have to kill Bode. They really don't want to, but Bode just won't let them have it, but they get to the planet. They're able to be like, hey, we're going to build a safe haven for Jedi people here on this planet. Who knows what happens next? The 3rd game's not out yet. But they adopt Bode's daughter. Also, him and Merrin get together. Merrin's bisexual, and also into Cal now. Right, and also mainly because I mentioned it about 45 minutes ago. The two people from the High Republic, the obviously bad guy and the pirate captain, they are also in the game, and then Cal kills them both. Roughly around this time, this little girl, Princess Leia Organa, gets captured by bounty hunters, sent by Inquisitors to try to flush out Obi-Wan Kenobi, now going as Ben Kenobi. So Bail Organa reaches out. He's like, hey, can you save my daughter? He's like, sure. So he saves the daughter, gets tracked down by the Inquisitors, fights off some of them, learns about this secret group called, I think it's called The Path, that I was trying to help Force-sensitive individuals to get to safety. from the Empire. Eventually, he uses himself as a sacrifice to get Darth Vader alone on a planet where he kicks his butt again, but because of his love for Anakin is unable to do the finishing strike. Meanwhile, remember the black girl I mentioned from earlier? She also secretly trained up to be an Inquisitor with the ultimate goal to betray Vader. Well, she betrays Vader, it doesn't go well, she gets stabbed, but eventually she realizes Obi-Wan is from Tatooine. I'm gonna go to Tatooine and make life hell for this kid. She finds Luke Skywalker, almost kills him, but she turns to the light side right at the end. Everybody's happy. Obi-Wan goes up to Luke Skywalker and he's like, hello there. Anyway, a couple years after that, there's this young man, Cassian Andor. Cassian Andor is just a rebel scum. He was just a young boy on this junk planet back when it was still the Republic, but it was marked as uninhabitable. Everybody left, but a small group of children still lived there. But then this couple bounty hunters, the guy and Marva, show up on the planet trying to steal things. Cassian Andor sees them and is like, hey, what are you doing here? And they're like, uh-oh, well, actually I think it's the Separatists, maybe it's the rebels. Somebody starts showing up right now and it's like, oh, they're gonna get y'all kids. We gotta go. You're my son now. Your name is Cassian Andor now because I'm Marv Andor, I believe. And we're gonna get the hell out of here. And Cassian Andor's like, well, I want to know where my sister is. So he starts looking for his sister. Whenever he gets a couple extra bucks and a couple extra moments, it goes bad. He gets he thinks his sister was out on this one area working as a dancer, maybe more than that. But when he's trying to leave, he gets accosted by a couple cops. He kills the cops. Now the Empire's after him. So the Empire invades his home. I'm forgetting the exact planet. That's beside the point. So he has to get the hell out of there. And he joins up with this guy named Luthen. He wants to get information from Luthen. Luthen wants him to join his team. Luthen's got a good feeling about this Cassian Andor. And so Cassian Andor enters this other mission to try to steal a bunch of money from the Empire. I'm forgetting the name. It's the lights of... Is it Aldhani? It might be Aldhani. Something like that. There's so many names in Star Wars. It goes great, except for the fact that half the crew dies. But Andor takes his cut of the money, leaves. Now Luthen's like, well, we're gonna have to kill that guy. So now Luthen's on the run now Cassian Andor is on the run from both the Empire and Luthen's little group of rebels. So that's not great. What also isn't great is the fact that he immediately gets arrested on the beach for just looking a little suspicious around cops. And he gets sent off to this prison where he starts constructing Death Star parts along with a bunch of other people. But then they realize they can rise against their oppressors, and with one way out, they're able to flood the station and turn off the electrocuted floors that would kill them. And they rise against their oppressors. And Andy Serkis is there, but Andy Serkis can't swim when they finally get to the surface, and so they have to say, oh no, I want to come and get you, but Andor gets pushed down, he falls into the water, and he's able to escape with skiing. One way out! What a good episode of television those were. Mon Mothma is also trying to fund this fledgling rebellion, and has to start taking money from gangsters, and she doesn't like very much. Chandrilla gangsters at that, because that's who she's the senator of. Anyway, Andor escapes and then learns Marv died. His mommy is dead. Oh no. So he has to go back. Things don't go good. His former partner, lover, their relationship is complicated. She was getting interrogated and tortured by the Empire because the secret police, I'm forgetting the acronym, thought she knew where Andor was, and so they put this sound of creatures dying playing through headphones, and it totally messed her up. Andor is able to rescue her while they're holding Marv's profession funeral, and then Marv posthumously gives a great speech telling the entire town to rise against their oppressors, and Andor's friend, the big guy, smacks a clone trooper with a brick. God, that show is great. I'm so excited for season 2. Anyway, Andor is able to get the girlfriend to the ship where I think the mayor was there, or one of the town leaders, and they get off the planet, but he instead goes back to Luthen, who was of course also there, and he's like, hey, Luthen. Was I saying Luther? It's Luthen. I'm pretty sure it's Luthen. I didn't even mention Cyril Karn. Cyril Karn was leading the raid to get Andor in the first place, and that went terribly bad too. Cyril Karn's great. This video is so stupid. He's like, I want to join the rebellion. And Luthen is like, hell yeah, you do. Luthen might have been a Jedi too. We don't know that yet. Anyway, we don't, presumably they build the rebellion. The only part we know about that is there's this young boy, Ezra Bridger. When he was about 7 years old, his mother and father, and also the mayor of the planet, governor of the planet, sorry, were captured for speaking up against, doing pirate radio, speaking up against the Empire. So he was just alone for years until he ran into this group of other rebel fighters known as the Ghost Crew. And one of the other members of the Ghost Crew, one Kanan Jarrus, former Jedi Padawan Kanan Jarrus, finds out this kid's a Force sensitive, so he starts training him to be a Jedi. This is the part I haven't watched Rebels in quite a few years either. I'm in a rewatch podcast, A More Civilized Age, great Star Wars podcast. They're only in half of season 2. So I don't really quite remember exactly what happened in the rest of the season. They get kicked off of their home planet. He eventually goes back to the planet. Now as part of the Greater Rebellion. Now they're looking for a base. Tarkin shows up. The blue guy shows up. I should remember his name. I have a Lego of him somewhere, I think. Maybe not. Eventually he runs into these Force whales, which he realizes are the progenitors of the hyperspace lanes. Ahsoka shows up and she's like, hey, this is bad guy over here. I think I might know him. Well, eventually he meets up with Darth Maul, who is still around and kicking. Darth Maul's trying to corrupt this young mind, but then they run into Darth Vader. Darth Maul, of course, gets the hell out of there, but Ahsoka is there to back him up. And then Ahsoka's like, hey, you gotta run. I'm gonna stand off against this dark guy. And she cuts open his mask and sees it's Anakin. Is like, Master, I'm not gonna leave your side this time. And Vader's like, yeah, but you're gonna die. Well, later, Ezra gets a little dark-sided, but he comes back from it fine. He rescues the whales. Kanan gets blinded. They find a station with a Force beast there where they start learning from, and the rebellion finally announces that they are in fact a rebel alliance with the help of Mon Mothma, and Ezra finds this Force portal world area where it's just a bunch of portals through basically time, and he sees Ahsoka right there. Ahsoka about to get crushed by a building, and he just kind of yoinks her out into the future. Ahsoka's alive again. Yay for plot. I completely forgot to mention the Mortis arc. Way back during the Clone Wars, Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Ahsoka Tano look for a rescue, a very old Jedi code, Jedi Morse SOS code, basically. But when they get there, they're transported to this weird time area where every day it cycles through the 4 seasons, and there are 3 gods there, one called the brother, one called the sister, and one called the father, and they're kind of like the controllers of the Force. Like they are the Force incumbent embodiments. Ahsoka gets killed by the brother, but then the daughter, but accidentally stabs the sister. The sister gives the last of her life to resuscitate Ahsoka Tano, giving her her first extra life. And then the father also dies, and then it goes bad. Anyway, they wake up. Was it a dream? Was it not a dream? I think it was not a dream. I'll get back to that later. Anyway, Ahsoka's now getting her second life by being yoinked by Ezra Bridger, but she's changed by the process. One of their compatriots, Sabine Wren, is a child of Mandalore, and she gets the Darksaber and tries to spark a rebellion to free Mandalore from its oppression, but eventually gives the Darksaber to Satine Kryze's sister, who was a member of Death Watch, Bo-Katan. And then finally, Admiral Thrawn, that's the name. Admiral Thrawn seems to have gotten control of, Lothal. Lothal's the planet that Ezra was from. Seems to have full control of Lothal, but Ezra Bridger, they're trying to do it, and then able to save his family. Kanan Jarrus sacrifices himself to rescue every other member of the Ghost Crew. One of the main antagonists who killed off of the species that Zeb was, he eventually turns to the light side, and he gets all buddy-buddy. They find out that the Empire did yet another genocide on the Geonosians, so presumably their droid technology would never see the light of day. And eventually, Ezra has one last plan. He gives Sabine his lightsaber. He goes up to Thrawn and he's like, okay, I'm going to have a bunch of space whales come and take off to who the hell knows where. And that's the end of Ezra for a bit. The rest of the people continue to fight, except for maybe Sabine, who kind of just stays on Lothal for a while. Sabine also eventually becomes an apprentice of Ahsoka for a bit. Anyway, we're back to the movies. Rogue One. One Cassian Andor hears that there's some big plans that they need to get. Because about 10 years ago now, this little girl, Jyn Erso, she hides from the Empire as they try to get Galen Erso to come and help build a giant super weapon that is currently known as Project Stardust. Anyway, Jyn Erso is older now. She gets rescued from just some random prison camp by one Cassian Andor and is like, hey, we need to look for your dad. They look for her dad. She eventually gets won over to the rebel cause, and they find themselves on Scarif, where they find that the planet, the Project Stardust, which is a giant space station that can destroy planets. So they need to beam this up out of there. They eventually, is this the moment where the Rebel Alliance goes public? Maybe it is. The Rebel Alliance shows up to help rescue Rogue One. That's the name of the ship, their call sign. Everyone dies, but they're able to get before they go to Scarif, they meet what's his face again, who I can't remember. She was friends with Jyn Erso for a long time. The pseudo father figure after Galen was basically captured. Anyway, they meet these two weirdos on this planet right before it gets blowed up, and they go to Tatooine. Speaking of Tatooine, Leia Organa was able to get those plans, and she's now in orbit of Tatooine trying to flee from the Empire, but the Empire shows up and Darth Vader shows up and he's like, I know you have those plans, and then he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm a senator, and he's like, I just saw you. Of course, we didn't know he just saw them beforehand. That was a thing that came years and years later, but that's beside the point, because Leia doesn't have the plans anymore. She gave the plans to R2-D2 with the goal of saying, hey, bring these plans to Obi-Wan Kenobi, you are my only hope. And so R2-D2 and his best bud C-3PO are able to get onto an escape pod and land on the planet, and the stupid Empire is like, well, there's no life signs on that escape pod, why waste the blaster fuel? So the droids are able to land on the planet. Darth Vader's like, why the hell didn't you get those droids? Go look for those droids. I'm gonna go torture this girl that I don't know is my daughter. Anyway, the droids are on the planet. They're trying to look for Ben Kenobi. They eventually see this big sand crawler in the distance. It's Jawas. They get captured by Jawas. Meanwhile, one Luke Skywalker, he's just a boy. He's a great pilot. He can get womp rats from out of the air from whatever he says in the movie, but he's kind of stuck being a moisture farmer with his Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. They buy these two droids from the Jawas earlier. One of them's called R2-D2, the other's C-3PO. But then eventually R2-D2 is able to wedge off his little controller bolt, I forget, the controlling bolt, whatever it's called, and head off looking for one Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke doesn't know what Obi-Wan Kenobi is. He knows Ben Kenobi, but he chases off with the droid in their land speeder along with 3PO, and he finds them. They get attacked by more sand people, but Ben Kenobi's able to chase him off and brings him in and says, Luke Skywalker, I knew your father. He fought in the Clone Wars. He was a wonderful pilot. Here's his lightsaber. That was a Beatles accent. That was nothing like an Obi-Wan. Man, anyway, they go back. Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru are killed. And so Luke is like, well, I guess I'm with you, Obi-Wan. Let's go figure out what these plans are all about. Anyway, they go try to find a pilot in a wretched hive of scum and villainy. They find this guy Han Solo, fresh after shooting a guy. And Han Solo's like, yep, I'm a great pilot. I got my big friend Fuzzy Fuzzbear Chewbacca over here. We'll get you off the planet. First, he has to go to a couple stormtroopers. These are not the droids you're looking for. And hey, remember the two guys I mentioned that were on the other planet earlier? Well, they showed up here. They're like, I don't like you. My friend doesn't like you either. And then he gets his arm cut off by good old Ben Kenobi. Anyway, the four of them and the two droids, so the six of them, take off to go to Alderaan, because that's where Leia is from. But they get there, and it's just a bunch of rocks. And Obi-Wan's got this bad feeling. And then they get attacked by some TIE fighters, and they have to shoot them out of the sky. And it's like, wait, TIE fighters can't fly too far. Maybe they came from that moon over there. And that's no moon. That's a space station. Again, I guess I can only do Beetle right now. I'm sorry. Anyway, they get tractored into the space station. But that's what they wanted. They hid in the smuggler cabin. So they sneak out. They rescue Princess Leia. They come back, and Obi-Wan Kenobi was able to turn off the tractor beam, so they're able to escape. But Obi-Wan Kenobi meets up with Anakin Skywalker, with Darth Vader one last time, and he sees Luke. He sees him about to escape, so he lets himself get cut down. Darth Vader stomps on the disappeared body. but Luke makes his escape, and they're like, well, why did we just let him go? And it's like, because we put a tracker on their device. Anyway, they go to Yavin 4, where the Rebel Alliance is there, their secret base, and they're looking at these Death Star plans, and there is one weak point that Jyn Erso's father built into it. But you need to be a real good pilot to be able to get there. Anyway, Luke's a pretty good pilot, so he's going to fly to it, and guess what just showed up? The Millennium Falcon was being tracked, so now the Death Star is also here, so it's a race for the clock to see who wins first. Either Tantive 4 is going to get in range of the Death Star and blow up, or, not Tantive 4, Yavin 4. It's the Tantive 5, I think, is the ship from earlier. Or Luke is going to fly his plane and save the day. Well, the Millennium Falcon, he thinks was gone, but Han Solo shows back up, knocks off Darth Vader's TIE fighter from off of Luke's butt. Luke uses the Force. Use the Force, Luke. He takes off his panel. He shoots the torpedoes into the Death Star. The whole thing blows up. Yay! Everyone wins. Everyone gets a medal except for Chewbacca. I forgot a couple years before, in the moments before Ezra defeats Thrawn. He shows up on Tatooine with Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan kills Darth Maul in one of the coolest scenes out there. Yeah, one of the coolest scenes in Rebels. Anyway, back to Episode 5. Things are not going great. The rebels are on the run. They have to camp out on this ice planet Hoth, but then a probe droid spots them. The Empire shows up. They have to flee. The Millennium Falcon and Princess Leia go in one direction. They're going to try to go to Cloud City after escaping from an Imperial Star Destroyer led by Darth Vader himself, but are tracked by, that's right, Boba Fett, Jango Fett's clone, son. While Luke goes and trains on Dagobah after receiving a vision from his former master, now Force Ghost, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi, to go to Dagobah and learn under Yoda. I met him in a swamp down in Dagobah where it bubbles all the time like something carbonated soda. I don't know the lyrics to that one as well, so I'm not going to read them out verbatim. Anyway, he learns the Force from Yoda. The Millennium Crew shows up on Cloud City, but the Empire got there first, so Lando has to betray them. Luke feels this in the Force and tries to go and rescue him, but Yoda's like, hey, be careful, if you turn to the dark side, there's no coming back from that. So anyway, Luke goes and tries to save him, but instead falls right into a trap. He thinks, first Han Solo gets frozen in carbonite, and then Boba Fett takes him away to Jar Jar because Han Solo has still had a debt to Jabba the Hutt this whole entire time from way back into Episode 4. Leia and Lando try to rescue him, but it doesn't work out so good. Meanwhile, Luke fights Darth Vader, and Darth Vader realizes, no, Luke, I am your father. No! Luke goes no, and instead of being this monster son, he jumps into the hole. Luckily, Leia, she's also got a bit of the Force. She's able to feel, no, go down there, I feel where Luke is. And they go feel where Luke is, they capture him, he gets a cool robot hand. Things are not good. Couple years later, they go and try to rescue Han. Luke is now a Jedi Master. He's wearing all black and his very fancy boots, and they rescue Han Solo from Jabba the Hutt. Leia kills Jabba. Boba Fett gets killed by a blinded Han Solo. The Sarlacc pit's there. Boba gets knocked into the Sarlacc pit. But then they learn from Mon Mothma, remember Mon Mothma from earlier? They learn that many Bothans died to get this information that there is another Death Star. And so they have to do a two-pronged attack to go destroy this new Death Star. A group of them are going to go down to this forest moon of Endor to destroy this shielding mechanism, while the others are going to go inside this still partially constructed Death Star and blow it up from the inside. Well, it doesn't go well, because Luke gets a feeling that he needs to go see his father. So he goes and sees his father. They go up into the throne room, where Emperor Palpatine reveals that this Death Star is fully operational. And they also knew the rebels were coming, so they were backup enforcements when they were trying to shut off the shield. It is not going great. The Death Star is picking off rebel ships here and there. Luke is like, this isn't very good, but I'm going to try to turn my father to the dark side. They fight for a bit, and he's like, no. And then Palpatine starts torturing Luke, and Darth Vader's like, no! Throws Palpatine off the ledge. He's died. Luke is like, let me see. Darth Vader's like, let me see you with my own eyes. Luke pulls off his helmet. It's Anakin Skywalker. He's saved. He's a part of the light side again. Meanwhile, because Leia made friends with the Ewoks on the planet, they're able to team up and defeat the Empire presence and turn off the shield generator. It's a trap. You gotta say that. And then Lando Calrissian and the Millennium Falcon is able to, and some other ships, is able to destroy the Death Star. Luke is able to take off with his father's body just in the nick of time. Everyone celebrates. Luke goes off to start building another Jedi school. Hera from the Ghost Crew was also in that battle, so was Commander Rex. He was there. Anyway, roughly 5 years after that, this Mandalorian warrior goes and gets a bounty hunter to get a thing. Turns out this thing is a little green baby, who from now on out will be referred to as Baby Yoda. Did I mention Yoda died? Yoda died in episode 6. And Luke is able to look out and see the Force ghosts of Ben Kenobi, Yoda, and his father Anakin Skywalker having been saved. Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, he befriends this baby and they go across the galaxy, fending off bounty hunters, fending off remnants of the Empire, including this guy who runs a chicken shop in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Sometimes I have these names, sometimes I don't. Anyway, they're able to defeat them, but he's still around. Turns out, this guy, Giancarlo Esposito, he glassed Mandalore in the last few years after presumably making a truce with Bo-Katan, but he turned on her and glassed the planet, doing yet another genocide, and taking the Darksaber for his own. He's got this hidden base on Mandalore because most people don't know it. You can still live there with the proper precautions. Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, meets up with Bo-Katan at one point, and they're like, "Oh, you're weird because you never take off your mask." And Din Djarin is like, "Yo, you're weird because you do take off your mask. Nobody cares who I was till I put on the mask." It's been a while since I watched all of Mandalorian, I tell you what. Anyway, Boba Fett also shows up. He's able to climb out of the Sarlacc pit after blowing it up or something like that, and he survived. He was captured by some Tuskens, but he befriends them, and then he's able to go and take back his place as the Daimyo of Tatooine, filling in Jabba the Hutt's place. Anyway, he also runs into the Mandalorian. They fight with each other. They become buds. There's also this really cool sheriff who was wearing Mandalorian armor for a bit there. Anyway, Boba Fett calls on the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian eventually, Baby Yoda gets stolen by Giancarlo Esposito. Mando shows up and tries to rescue Grogu, but he's got these dark troopers, these big robots that are really tough to beat. But then Luke Skywalker shows up, takes Grogu, trains him for some number of years, I guess? That's unclear. But then eventually Grogu's like, "Nah, I gotta go." Meanwhile, Mando seeks down the remnants of his clan. Many of them got killed in one of the escape attempts to try to rescue Grogu. And he's like, "Well, I took off my helmet earlier so I could look at Grogu with my own eyes." And the Hammer Woman is like, "Well, you gotta go bathe in the waters of Mandalorian." He's like, "Well, Mandalorian's poisonous." "Well, you gotta do it." Anyway, he gets a new ship because his ship got blown up by the Empire remnants. And it's a really cool N2 type Naboo starfighter, except it's all gray and it's got a little Grogu cabin. It's a cool ship. I got one right behind me in Lego form. Anyway, Grogu shows up because he doesn't want to do Jedi anything. Ahsoka's also there. Ahsoka gets information on where Grand Admiral Thrawn might be from this weird woman named Morgan Elsbeth. We will know more about Morgan Elsbeth as soon as Tales from the Empire comes out. I don't know that yet. Anyway, Din Djarin and Boba Fett team up to take control of Tatooine, and then Din Djarin teams up with Bo-Katan to take back Mandalore and kill Giancarlo Esposito one last time, and the Darksaber does finally get destroyed, for now at least. We'll see. And then Ahsoka Tano meets back up with Sabine Wren because she's got more information as to where Grand Admiral Thrawn and presumably Ezra Bridger would be. And so they form a rough alliance, a rough Master and Padawan thing going on again, but it doesn't go well because Ahsoka gets knocked into the water, and Sabine is left with the fallen Dark Jedi, who's like, "Hey, come with me. We'll go to this planet, and you could find your Ezra Bridger again." And Sabine is like, "Okay, well, I gotta do that." And they go over there, and she finds Ezra Bridger, but she thinks that Ahsoka is dead, and that they're abandoned on there, and that Grand Admiral Thrawn, who is also there, is going to get a ride back to the galaxy they're from. Meanwhile, Ahsoka intuits that if she puts her ship into one of the space whales will also take her Her and Hu Yang, the Jedi robot who has been teaching Jedi younglings how to build lightsabers for hundreds of years. He was in Clone Wars too. It's really weird they brought him back for Ahsoka, but I love it. They get into a space whale. They also go and fly to the other galaxy where Thrawn is. They're unable to stop Thrawn from getting away, but they're able to force push Ezra onto the ship just in time while Ahsoka is killing Morgan Elsbeth. But the two other Dark Jedi are there. One, Shin, I think her name is Shin. She's off somewhere. She tried to get power. It didn't work. Now she's just kind of around. And the other guy finds statues of the three figures of the three Force gods from the Mortis arc. Remember them? That's mostly caught up with this intermediary timeline. At some point, Luke builds a school. It doesn't go well because Leia and Han's child, Ben Solo, gets corrupted to the dark side by this figure known as Snoke. And Luke sees this dark side, almost strikes Ben down, but thinks better of it, but Ben is just scared that his master raised a lightsaber, so that's what causes him to follow the dark side, kills a bunch of the younglings, takes a bunch of others to become the Knights of Ren, and goes to become one of the founding members of the First Order. This other little girl, see, Emperor Palpatine, remember when I talked about the M-count cloning thing with Omega earlier? That's all leading up to that, so Palpatine can clone himself and have clones of himself so he can basically live forever. One of those failed clones eventually has a kid. That kid is, of course, named Rey. They drop off this kid on this planet, I forget what the desert planet is called, and then they're killed by Empire assassins. But this little kid is living on this Jakku, I think, for basically her whole life, hoping that her parents will come back. Anyway, this pilot, Poe Dameron, he's looking for where Luke Skywalker went off to, and he just so happens to also be on Jakku, when he sends off his little droid with half of the map to find Luke Skywalker off in the distance, while he is captured by the First Order. Rey finds this little droid, is like, let's get you to your little master. Meanwhile, Poe tries to escape from the First Order and teams up with this guy named FN to number, who he names Finn, who is a stormtrooper who is trying to betray the First Order. Finn thinks Poe died, but he actually just jumped out of the ship earlier. Finn finds Rey and is like, hey, that's the droid we're looking for. Let's get off the planet. They go to the Millennium Falcon. They fly away. Han Solo finds them. They go meet this old woman. The old woman tries to give Anakin's lightsaber to Rey, and she gets a Force vision that never comes up again later. Poe Dameron is alive, but then the First Order is there, led by Kylo Ren, and he captures Rey, but Rey is learning the Force really quickly, and she's able to escape, and she fights, and then Han Solo shows up. They sneak into this place called the Star Killer Base, which is actually one of the Jedi planets that had a bunch of kyber crystals in it that the Empire was mining out to build the Death Star, and now the First Order was just kind of using the planet as a whole to build an even bigger super Death Station weapon. Anyway, Kylo Ren kills his father. Chewbacca's pissed off about it, shoots him, which gives Rey the upper hand to defeat him in combat, but then the planet starts falling apart. Everyone gets off the planet fine, and Rey is able to, and then somehow R2-D2 wakes up, and now Rey has the full map to get to Luke Skywalker. So then she goes off and trains with Luke Skywalker for, I think it's supposed to be a few years, but towards the end of it, the First Order catches up with the Resistance, led by Leia Organa, and starts chasing after them. There's only like one ship left. It's not going great. They run down to this one planet with salt on it, and it's a really cool visually looking scene. And then Rey shows up and is like, we're going to have to save him. Rey now trained a lot more in the usage of the Force. And then Luke Skywalker shows up, having been convinced by Rey that he should continue to join in on the fight. And then Kylo Ren is like, you need to destroy that guy, but it's not really a guy, it's just Luke Force projecting himself. Also, Rey and Kylo Ren have become like a Force diode. They're able to like see each other from vast distances through the Force because of this weird connection in between the two of them, which as of this movie is just because it's a weird happenstance. It just so happened to be that way. Weird. It's a lot better that way too. But anyway, Because Luke force projected himself, it gave the rest of the Resistance enough time to flee the planet and get away from the First Order. Kylo Ren is pissed off. Also, Finn and Rose went to a casino planet for a while trying to find a hacker because the Empire figured out hyperspace tracking, which is not a good thing for anyone who doesn't have it, basically. And the movie ends, and the entire series ends with a little kid pulling a broom to him with the Force, because the Force exists in all of us, and it doesn't matter what our blood heritage is, as long as we all can rise up for what is right. And then there's another movie. This is the one I've seen the least, so get ready for this. Kylo Ren, there's a message sent out through Fortnite that is Palpatine speaking to the entire galaxy that he has returned and he's gonna kill everyone. Kylo Ren tracks him down, becomes Palpatine's Padawan, I guess. And then Rey and Finn and Poe team up. They race across the galaxy trying to track down Exegol as the planet. How I remember the stupid name of Exegol, who can say, but it's there. It's locked in my stupid brain. Anyway, they find it. They've got like a million Star Destroyers, except they all have Death Star capabilities. Whatever. Palpatine's in a clone body that's falling apart, but once he absorbs Rey and Kylo Ren's Force diode, he'll be whole again. Also, Rey and Kylo Ren have this Force diode because she's the daughter of one of the Palpatine clones. But then Leia is sick, and Rey and Kylo fight, and Rey wins, and she takes off. And then Leia uses the last of her living Force, cause Carrie Fisher passed away. Unfortunately, they had to work around it a little bit. So I don't bash them. I'm not bashing them on this part. I'm bashing him for everything else. She uses the last of her Force to turn Ben back to the light side, and so then he teams up with Rey to defeat Palpatine one last time, and then in a moment that I really enjoyed at the time, but now is kind of bitter, they use a bunch of voices from Jedi of the past to speak to Rey, telling her to strengthen her resolve, come back to life. She gets gravely injured, but Ben sacrifices himself to heal her, and then she takes on the name Rey Skywalker. Also, Finn finds another group of stormtroopers that have turned on the Empire because they're all a little bit Force sensitive, and they ride horses on one of the Imperial Star Destroyers, which could be a cool visual, but they have to destroy it to turn off the tracking the balancing mechanism, the gyro mechanism, whatever it is, so that all the ships can stay in the air, basically. And then Lando Calrissian shows up with a bunch of ships somehow. He just talked them all into coming to Exegol, racing through an incredibly dangerous nebula, and they kind of shoot down the rest of the Star Destroyers, and Palpatine gets killed. Rey is Rey Skywalker, and she buries both Luke's and Leia's lightsaber on a planet where Leia was dressed as a slave in a slave bikini, and Luke hated his entire life, but whatever, because that is Star Wars recapped from entirely my memory. I'm sure I missed some stuff. Again, I haven't read any of the books. I haven't seen The Acolyte. I've only rewatched half of Rebels. I skipped over a whole bunch in Clone Wars. Wow. Of course, I've been recording for an hour and a half now. But can you believe how much fun I was having at the beginning? And then I got to Star Wars Episode 9, and it drained out of me? Anyway, despite all of that, despite how so much of that is ranging in quality, they killed Cad Bane. They killed Cad Bane in Book of Boba Fett, and that sucks. Because Cad Bane is awesome, and Boba Fett was not great. I completely skipped the Obi-Wan show. No, I didn't. Never mind. Oh my gosh. That's what happens when you record for an hour and a half straight. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know your favorite Star Wars thing in the comment section below. Mine, if I didn't make it obvious enough, at this point is probably Andor Season 1. That show is fantastic. If you'd like to see anything else I put out, usually about video games, you can subscribe. If you'd like this video, let me know by leaving a rating on it. Leave a comment, please. I might try to reply to it. You can follow me on my social medias, where I'm at Mario8th everywhere. Links to all of the ones that I'm currently active on are in the description. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.